I pay homage to the Guru and Lord Arya Manjushri. Your intelligence shines forth like the sun, unclouded by the two obscurations. You hold the scripture text in your heart, symbolic of the seeing of all things as they are. Those who are caught in the prison of samsara are confused in the darkness of ignorance and are overwhelmed by their sufferings. In 60 ways with your speech you teach migratory beings to whom you are compassionate as your only child. Your proclamation of Dhamma is like a roaring thunder, which awakens beings from the stupor of delusions and frees us from the iron chains of our karma. Your word of sword of wisdom hewing down suffering wherever its sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of ignorance. Primarily pure, your princely body is the embodiment of the perfection of Bodhisattva dwelling on 10th Bhumi. I pay homage to Manjushri who dispelled my ignorance and whose body is adorned with the 112 marks of a Buddha. With the brilliance of your wisdom, O compassionate one, illumine the darkness and close my mind, enlighten my intelligence and wisdom, so that I may gain insight into the Buddha's words to explain them. In Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment reach. By the merit of listening to the teaching, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all living beings. Sam je dam je dewa dan de ju da dem ba ju je dang a da dong a je ju da da wa ju je dang a me be dewa da me da wa ju je nye re ja da nye da de da nya la ne bara ju je. May all living beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and the cause of sorrow. May all living beings not be separate from the bliss that is soulless. May all living beings live attachment, hatred towards near ones and far by living with equanimity. May all living beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and the cause of sorrow. May all living beings not be separate from the bliss that is soulless. May all living beings live attachment, hatred towards near ones and far by living with equanimity. To the perfection of wisdom, Blessed Mother, I pay homage. Thus I've heard at one time, Blessed One Bhagavan was dwelling in Rajgriha, and virtues speak, together with the great assembly of Sangha and great assembly of Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in samadhi on the enumeration of phenomena called the profound illumination. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva, the Mahasattva, superior Avalokiteshvara, was contemplating the meaning of the profound perfection wisdom. And he saw that the five aggregates also are empty of inherent existence. And then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to Bodhisattva, the Mahasattva, superior Avalokiteshvara: how should a son or daughter of good lineage train who wishes to practice profound perfection wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the Bodhisattva, the Mahasattva, superior Avalokiteshvara, said this to Venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good lineage who wishes to practice profound perfection wisdom should view in this way. They should correctly view those five aggregates also as empty of inherent existence. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition factors, consciousness are empty. Shariputra, in the same way, all phenomena are merely empty, that is, without characteristic. They are not created, they do not cease, they have no impurity, they are devoid of impurity, they do not decrease and increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition factor, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no phenomena. There is no I element, so forth, up to no mind element, also up to element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth, up to no aging and death, and no exhaustion of aging and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no cessation, no path, no exalted wisdom, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because bodhisattvas have no attainment, they depend on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Because their minds are without obstruction, they are without fear. Having completely passed beyond all error, they go to the completion nirvana. All the Buddhas abide in the 3 times, having relied on the perfection of wisdom, became manifestly perfect Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom is mantra of great knowledge. The unsurpassed mantra equal to the unequal, mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering. Because it is not false, it should be known as the truth. Mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Tadyadam gade gade bara zangade bodhizo. Tadyadam 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 gade bara zangade bodhizo. Shariputra, a bodhisattva, a mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom in that way. Then the Blessed One arose from the samadhi and said to the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, superior Avalokiteshvara, well done, one of good lineage. It is just so, one of good lineage. It is like that. The profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught it. Even the Tathagatas rejoice in this. The Blessed One, having so spoken, Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, the Master, Spirit of Avalokitesha, and all those gathered there, and those who were demigods, Gandharvas were filled with their admiration, and praised the words of the Blessed One. So in this last chapter of the Precious Garland of Nagarjuna, he discusses the various conducts of one intending to practice the way of the Bodhisattva, or a courageous, selfless practitioner who sees all the suffering and problem come from selfishness, and hence one needs to depart from selfishness and take steps of the way of learning to become selfless. So in this, he spent some time discussing, as we read last week, the Bodhisattva should not only first learn to look high, what are the good conduct Bodhisattva should learn to adopt, but he should identify those negative states of mind, like the 51 negative states of emotions, that he must mark and highlight them, whether they are the state of mind he has, if he has, how to unseat them. And so therefore learning to identify those very negative mental traits of an individual, learning to identify them, and then develop a skill to isolate them, reduce their influence, and the continuity, and therefore try to create a partition between those negative thoughts and their habits and their offensive. If the negative conducts or attitudes are still lingering in one's mind, that they will output some time or another in the form of words or deeds, which have a direct effect or harm to others. So Bodhisattva must be the witness to himself. What are the negative thoughts or disruptive thoughts and emotions, destructive emotions, afflictive emotions, they are within himself. And he must remain constantly on the watch, because they are not something that exists there by themselves. They're not permanent. They're just conditioned, rather like a weather. You got to be the weatherman. The weatherman doesn't make up the weather report, He has to survey and then tell what's about to happen. Oh, there's going to be rain at 4 o'clock or whatever. So then, if you're going out, take precautions with an umbrella, or maybe not even go out at all. You see, so Bodhisattva is more like a mind man. He's a man who watches his mind, and it's what kind of weather pattern it's gathering. So whether there was going to be a storm about that issue on that location with that people or whatever, Bodhisattva actually sees this very clearly, and so when he becomes cognizant of his own internal negative mental aspects, he learns to spot them, recognize them, class them, and then learn to separate them. So that's why we went through the 51, what we call the disruptive or destructive mental emotions, the negative emotions. He looked at the relationship between the fruit defilements and secondary defilements and so on. And then we finished off last week with verse number 433. Is a contrition is regret for bad deeds, So when one has able to cite and recognize one's bad thoughts, and then recognizing bad as bad, and then becoming having a revulsion, some kind of a disgust within one's own mind for having that, then and the grief and suffering it has caused in the past and will continue cause in the future, and therefore try to put a floodgate so to stop that from continuing in the future. Then he knows why he takes refuge. He knows without refuge we are definitely exposed. So therefore he tried to, turn to the four truths, about the four truths, three jewels, and so forth. So he instead of having doubts in the two truths, so the four truths and three jewels and so forth, now the practitioner knows these very internal problems of the mind can only be remedied if one has understanding of the four truths. Four truths is the Four Noble Truths, how these negative emotions are the origin, truth of origin. And when one understands this truth of origin, the truth of origin of the undesirable sufferings. Where does the person get suffering? Usually people have a feeling their suffering comes from him or her or them or that episode or that experience. Even though it's relatively true, the various contributing factors to give rise, immediate cause of the sufferings are the places and people or encounter or exchanges. But the root cause of suffering is true origin of suffering is one's own afflictions. And that's why these 51 destructive emotions has to be identified to recognize them as mental conditionings rather than people or things out there. If we have a mind that is devoid of these 51 afflictions, or even though we did become exposed to negative objects or things, they have a lesser kind of a cause of our suffering, but they become more of a catalyst of compassion towards others, So when we don't have the beginning of knowing the origin, true origin is our own suffering, it's so easy to blame somebody else and see something else as the cause of it. So not seeing the true origin is harder. And easy to see the wrong things as a true origin, non-origin as origin is a lot easy. And so that's why the definition of these kind of destructive emotions empowers us to recognize all this true origin of sufferings, and that true origin of suffering then empowers us to then we can see the effects, the true origin of the sufferings, and then the suffering themselves. So you can see the cause and effect. Suffering is the effect. True origin is the cause. So now to uncause the effects, one has to find to uncause the cause. That is called truth of cessation. True cessation. True cessation means true. Otherwise, true cessation means that we actually resort to non-true cessations. We try to stop it, but actually it causes more. So it's not true cessation at all. It's a false cessation. It's like perpetuation. It makes it worse. Even though there might be temporary view of we are getting relief or we getting victory, but actually it's perpetuate. It brings more problem than it actually resolves. So that's called, when it's a true cessation, means this all people are resorting to the false cessations, false victories, false truth. Say, I told you it's all his fault. And everybody agrees with us. Such a deception to feel. But soon it will be proven to be incorrect. It was maybe a small feeling of a victory or a small feeling of a pause of the problem, but then it because true origin has left undetected, So therefore, true cessation meaning, if you did gain the kind of a flavor of what the true cessation is, you can't wait but to practice true path, True path also means there's a danger of us choosing pseudo path as the correct path, wrong path, hypocritical path as a real path, Quite a lot of the time that happens. It's so easy to follow the wrong path as the correct path, and a short path as a real path, and so on. So the truth of the path is first take refuge, It's to take refuge in the triple gem. Not in other gems. People are taking refuge in non-refuge objects, and then they get disappointed because they were never introduced as a true rare objects of refuge. Even among the three jewels, they say Buddha is not the ultimate refuge, nor is the Sangha. Ultimate refuge is the Dharma. Even in the Dharma, they say no, realization of Dharma is more refuge than the scriptural Dharma. So when one doesn't have these, even Bodhisattva cannot be taught the ways unless they begin their steps, take a refuge. And you can't take a refuge just as a ceremony until one has a good comprehension of the four concepts of Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Paths. So that's where we stopped last week, which is and then now it talks about how to take the steps of adopting Bodhisattva's positive activities of what Bodhisattva constitute. Householder Bodhisattvas abandon these. So here Bodhisattvas could be householder or monastics. Householder bodhisattvas too must be educated to know all those 51 true origin of sufferings, which are the negative emotions. And once they know what they are, they may take steps to abandon them. And one of the abandoning is that you abandon them by discipline, meditation, and wisdom. So, to practice discipline, one has to learn to highlight what are the things I need to recognize that I should drop, what are the things I should adopt in its stead. And first, theoretical training, through study, through listening, and then contemplating, not just accept everything what one has heard, but contemplate them, contest them in one's thoughts, reason them, and then one has to have a kind of a self-realization. Yes, I have to abandon these. I have to adopt these. I have to adopt these first. I have to abandon these for few days or whatever it is, and in stages, and stop. Bodhisattva's path is called graduated path, slowly. So everybody is on a different scale, I suppose. Everybody works on their. Even some people work in different times. Others are very slow, and some people seem to be encouraged by slow and steady wins the race. They really wanted to be the tortoise. And so the tortoise got the ability, but he doesn't want to use it. The hare has a lot of skill, but he doesn't realize he may run out of steam. So to adopt and drop Bodhisattva's way of life, it's probably a good idea to be a householder first. If a person has never been a householder and have never understood, of course, it's a bit difficult. So householder. So that's why Buddha himself was a householder first in the last life. He lived a householder life until he was 29, and caught a lot of practitioners like that also. I caught a lot of like Shantideva was a prince, and I don't think I don't know how much he worked as a prince, but like Milarepa was a farmer's boy, and he did a lot of householder duties, of taking revenge and trying to kill the uncle and all that worldly duties. And then, he didn't really realize what that was all about until he really hit the worst situation. So only when one has done a lot of mistakes, then Bodhisattva know what are there to be abandoned. I think to expect everybody to be a clean starter, as if it will be too idealistic. So Bodhisattva, householder Bodhisattva, abandon those in stages. Those diligent in the vows abandon more. So the diligent ones abandon more things. More duration, maybe more things. So that's why even in the monastics they have what you call probational monastics or novice monastics and fully ordained monastics. And then so the number of things some take up to abstain from, and others take up to abstain are totally different. So as a novice, there's like 36 vows. Even among them, there are 10 most important than the 26. So they sort of prioritize. Even as a fully ordained one, they also learn to add up many other specific vows not to do and abandon and so on. According to time and place, they have changed, but text itself has not changed. Texts, all the Buddhist schools actually were largely based on the differences of interpreting how many vows you took and how long you took. Some things you can take temporary vows, others you have to take life vows, even in the monastic situation. So that's why all the 18 Nikaya schools in India, which are all Theravadan schools, Vinaya schools, all came as a result of how many take many vows, and how many think it's not important, how many take other vows as they're important. So Buddha was skillful to give various things suited to the individual. So therefore he called it pratimoksha, individually tailored liberative trainings. So therefore one can't impose one's practice onto others if that's what they are not doing. So we just simply mind our own practice. So therefore it's not a blanket rules that everybody expect and must do. If not, we can't tolerate them or something. What if they have never taken some? We have no reason to judge them because they may have never taken those many. And so the vows are therefore called individually tailored pratimoksha. So whatever is liberative, whatever gives them some kind of growth through practice, that some might take 8 precepts for a couple of days, and one a day after another in a retreat, So that's what lay people usually do when they are in retreat. They take or not. Then if, say, they don't eat after midday and don't meet people and play music or any kind of social activities, but simply remain in retreat, then they can personally, privately take the 8 precepts each day, guard by them, and so duration of whatever length of weeks they just stay in retreat. But that is only relevant to them during that time. Usually a householder cannot adopt 8 precepts every day unless they are really fortunate to live fairly in a secluded place to practice and not do a lot of worldly business or worldly activities. Some due to their seniority of age and situation, they basically are sort of basically they live like a monk even as a lay person. So in that case, of course, they can take more vows. That's what they do, So that's exactly what I say. Householder bodhisattvas abandon those with diligent and want to take a monastic vows, abandon more, So they don't only, they not only renounce the world, but they also renounce income. They don't believe in savings. Saving is not a monastic practice. So no savings. Basically, you're probably not allowed to even have more than 2 robes, or just meal after meal you go back alms. That says a big difference, I mean, how many are able to live like that as a monastics nowadays? Most people have a fairly handsome savings, so then they don't have to go out in the cold or in the wind or in the neighborhood for anything, because so you can see the ideal kind of monasticism, like they go in Thai, they go forest tradition. So I said, these are forest tradition, the real ones. Others are just city monks. Or even the city monks do go on alms round. I don't think they have a full-time kitchen staff there. You have to go and beg alms. So, but in some other places in country like Tibet, I don't think it was ever possible to go beg alms in cold. You have to travel, 20 miles to reach a single home. That may not have much to offer. So you might as well try to stock up some 20 kilos of tsampa. That will be enough for, So the Vinaya vows those are according to individuals. So those diligent monastic was abandon more and freed from these defects, good qualities are easily observed. So meaning when the desire or craving or say saving or comfort is not so much on the mind of the practitioner, just taking the pain to walk for the food itself was the part of the tapasya. Tapasya means a kind of endurance or kind of asceticism. It just, so also to receive the food from the devotees and freed from these defects, meaning receive whatever people gives, not saying, I am this, I can't have this. I'm vegan, I can't have lactose, I can't have gluten, I can't have this, all these things, of course, more looking like what I need type of thing. Probably the monks didn't really eat all the things that fell in the bowl anyway, because they can't eat all. But one of the training was they just have to forbear the hardships to go walking from their hut to the devotee's home. Sometimes they may not get food also. That is part of that. Sometimes they may get food, and they may get too much of the same thing, whatever that is. So they got to be contented with the receiving and non-receivings. That was the part of it. It's just giving the soliciting virtue for the lay people to give. It's more that rather than them being so hungry they need someone to feed them. And if that was their priority, they definitely could make sure they never had to go out. But that wasn't the whole contact the lay people have to offer food to monastic. Sow the seeds in the mind of the lay people and say, who is this? Why is he doing this? And then straight away they get to know the Buddha, they get to know the Dharma, and they get to know the Sangha, of course. It wasn't because monks couldn't look after themselves, therefore they have to go. Its whole purpose was to be the ambassador of the Buddha, and people know who is this. His disciple Buddha lives on alms, and straight away lay people have karma, have merit to recollect the qualities of the Buddha, the Dharma, and some always after a little meal they always give small prayers and sometimes little sermons, even though a few minutes. They always do that. It's amazing. I think that was its own whole intention was, so how does the lay people, householders meet Dharma? They never have to do print leaflets and promote Dharma that way. Just the Sanghas go in beg alms. And so that was the case. Freed from these defects, the defects of not choosing this, choosing not this, and just go whatever. And the good qualities are easily observed. And then the Sangha practitioner slowly practice the humility and forbearance, and then meditate on the kindness, the generosity of other people, and speak the virtue of generosity of the donors, and then so on. So that's how slowly Bodhisattva adopt the good qualities. Briefly, the good qualities observed by bodhisattvas are, then it lists the 6 perfections. The giving, for instance. Firstly is giving, because here the giving usually people think giving is material things or time, and so here the Sangha, being Sangha, is the holiest giving, you know. The Sangha is just being the Sangha is as I said, they are the forefront of the Buddha and the Dharma. And so being Sangha is a giving, really is a giving. If it's really understood, being Sangha is a renunciation of their personal comfort. And so their whole body and their whole existence itself is a giving to the community. Sangha must more work with the lay community by collecting alms, and also must return to the temple with the senior ordained ones and have regular prayers and ceremonies and sessions with each other. And so they practice, the bodhisattvas observe giving. Giving the discipline to their every details of what they have to conduct physically, how they walk, how they eat, and there are a lot of sort of details in the ordained sanghas. They usually say 1 helping only. They are not allowed to help 2 helpings. They say, 1 helping is the sanghas. 2 helpings are not considered sanghas. So I think you're allowed to have a big helping, I suppose. So 2 helpings are usually considered to be necessary. So there are a lot of practice they have to give in the, and they must observe. There's the senior sanghas serve first. If a novice have to serve the bhikkhus first, and he should not serve himself first at all. So it's not first come first. It's oldest come. Oldest one gets served first. Particularly if if the oldest one is a little bit invalid and not able to, then the one novice have to serve. So he has to give respect to that. Until the senior sangha is completely served and settled, he doesn't even eat his own food. So there's that kind of giving, and then discipline, and that discipline is the discipline that he has to restrain, discipline that he has to practice, discipline that he has to do benevolently, and then be patient. Patience is where he has to not choose what is easiest, but do whatever he has to do, though inconvenient, patiently and with great forbearance, with great degree of ability to withstand hardships, out of respect, out of reverence to the Sangha, out of reverence for the others, out of humility for oneself. And so the practitioner, therefore, is you can see the intersection of the giving, discipline, and patience. And also he must do all the 3 with a joyous effort. He must do it with the right effort, not willingly, not just a kind of tokenism, not just doing it sort of a duty or some kind of you must do but don't want to do it. Doing joyously as a kind of uplifting feeling, purposeful activities, not seeing this is too monotonous, this is too long, that kind of thing. Well, however long it takes, still the joyous effort must be as fresh as it is intended, and so and that's why it's difficult to have consistent to be able to maintain that. And then the 5th one is concentration, which is the mind has to be very focused attentively as a meditator. The Sangha has to practice meditation. The concentration, if he doesn't do his meditation, then all the other 4 becomes less effective. So concentration a little bit distills the essence of all the above. Look at the forms and substance. Distinguish the form of the giving and discipline and patience and effort, not just mere display, but through the meditative concentration, one actually learns to develop a calm, a peaceful composure through the concentration meditation. And then the wisdom. wisdom is of the sixth perfection is through the wisdom one has a ability to not only fathom the temporal relative nature of things, but also ultimate nature or purpose of all the above, Even if one practice giving and observe discipline and endure hardships and employ right effort and have very concentrated, but if the wisdom, without wisdom, one can get attached to the giving, attached to the generosity, attached to one's own discipline, and then one's own discipline become cause of contempt to others, or arrogance towards others, or competitiveness towards others, if one doesn't have wisdom. So one has wisdom, then all the one's own discipline becomes a cause of humility rather than of arrogance or contemptuousness and righteousness. One who hasn't got the wisdom often finds his own other practices become more of a additional problem. So the wisdom must be employed. So these 6 parameters are what Bodhisattva now slowly use as a remedy to curtail all the 51 negative emotions. So the 6 parameters themselves each of them has antithesis, like generosity or giving itself has its own opposite, such as miserliness. Miserliness, then one knows related to the greed and desire, and so that deals all the negative emotion belonging to the desire and craving and attachment and possessiveness related things. And then likewise, when one begin to practice the discipline, all the lack of discipline, all the laziness, all the procrastination, all the excuses one makes, and therefore all those kind of pseudo ethics that one observe becomes corrected by the wisdom. And so therefore all these 6 parameters are the remedies to all the 51 negative emotions we went through. And even though the outer behavior of the generous person or discipline and being patient and right effort and meditators may be somewhat subdued, but if without this 6th one, the wisdom, he would not be able to uproot those true origin of sufferings. People do a lot of wonderful things, but they're clinging to the wonderful things they did, and then they show weariness and resentment, and that's sign of lack of wisdom. People do lots of the first 4. At least first 4, the generosity, that what people do for each other and do for others. It's natural quality of people to give and do so much for each other. But if that very giving and doing they do for each other is accompanied with clinging and resentment and expectation return and then resentment and all that, therefore the lack of wisdom then develop clinging and the grasping to all of those, the heavy, dense negative energy from the destructive emotion comes because of the lack of wisdom. So that's why the 6th is the wisdom that must accompany with each of the first 4 and the 5th as well. If there is that, then there is a unification of compassion and wisdom. If without the unification of compassion and wisdom, no remedy is effective, So all the remedy must be unified with compassion and wisdom, and that meditation and all the method aspect of the parameters are the compassion. 6th one is the wisdom. So hence the 6 parameters, these 6 when we went through, should be trained gradually. 6 should be trained firstly in generosity. Even generosity is first trained in material generosity, then in emotional protection, and third in a sort of a general loving kindness and that sort of. 4th is actually giving the dharma. Of course, we cannot give dharma unless we have them. But you can't give Dharma to the hungry, you can't give the Dharma to the to the cold, or you have to give clothes and food to the hungry and thirsty. So that's why even Dharma should not be imposed to people unless they're adequately able to listen to it, So that's why even the generosity has a sequence in what one, not just sequence as from outside, but sequence which is appropriate to individuals, Maybe to our near and dear people who we give everything, we basically see importance of their well-being first. We have really selflessly given so much. And yet then you can see they're really hungry of Dharma. They have no Dharma. That's the main problem. So now then we should now try to say, how is my role of being this role to this person need to make a growth. We need to make the improvement, not merely providing this all the years, but may give something that they really lack and hungry of. So that's why even giving should be tailored according to the individuals and depending to what level or nature of our relationship they are. So to some we might be a little bit more suitable to practice giving of material things. To other situations maybe we should give emotional guidance, and others we might show loving kindness, because the love that you show also has to be appropriate, and if it's not misconstrued as a cause of attachment and possessiveness, and of course taking advantage, then of course it's definitely not love. So this is where the giving also has to be tailored, not only according to one's understanding, but according to individuals and so on. So the wisdom, having to choose and having the ability to choose to tailor them, and attracts people. Giving attracts people. When giving attracts people, and a lot of people are attracted to certain things because they're generous. They go there because they get given things. And then the discipline, the disciplines are harder. Even people who are inspired, when it comes to discipline, they straight away tag back. They can't. So discipline is hard to impose or teach others unless they can copy from those who are able to live by it. You can't tell about discipline to other people if the person telling itself cannot really do it. So that's what is harder to do, easy to preach, particularly regarding discipline. So that's why even discipline, the abstention of not doing things, thou shalt not is first list of discipline, and then thou shalt, First, of course, society judges each other what he's doing wrong, Can't tell what he's doing right. That's usually attitudinal one. What he's doing wrong or is usually outer one, so easy to read and detect, So first one trains what one will not do, what one will drop that are bad, I suppose, harmful for oneself and harmful others, and then adopt something, even if one is no longer doing the harmful things. Now what is one doing better than that? Instead of that, what is it one doing? Then one is more fitter to do good, unimpeded by the bad habits. But lots of people can't do good because the bad impedes their usefulness and beneficiousness to others. So therefore, it cancels the latter. You can't. The good you try to do is cancelled by the bad that one hasn't abstained. So that's why even in the discipline, first you learn to develop the abstentions, which means restraint, self-restraint. And once one learns to self-restrain, then one is able to have time and space to occupy with doing good. That non-doing harmful things is already doing good. And then one is fitter to do good that actually benefits people. One can practice maybe, then meditation, then study. Because one is now free free on Tuesday evenings, free from or whenever. But if one is doing certain things on whatever, then one is not free. Whether they're harmful or maybe just friendship or whatever, or social thing is taken up by that, and so one doesn't have even time to do. So because one abstains from doing that, then one has time to do useful things. So you can see that even discipline has abstention first, and then practice something in its stead. And then third is that by doing the former two, see whether you are benefiting others or not. Some people are just simply doing it just to keep them out of mischief. Even that is, of course, benevolent, because you have to first help yourself. If it doesn't help us, we can't help other people. So then you can see the discipline of benevolent discipline of doing something benefit to oneself, others. So you can see, then actually the giving you do will have a greater moral authority. Some people give but doesn't benefit people. Other people give little but it benefits a lot because of the degree of discipline. The disciplines are, of course, what each individual themselves are learning to increase the quality or the contents of the discipline. If their discipline is genuine and sincere from their heart, then what they do has a lot of benefit to others. They don't have to do a lot. They don't have to lift mountains to benefit others. Just the power of the goodness is so good, A person who has a great sense of self-discipline, whether it's a bodhisattva or monastic or whatever practice they do, they have a lot of weight, a lot of power to benefit others. So that's why the benevolent and a discipline, If he or she doesn't do this, doesn't do that, he observes a lot of rules, but since the intention is just for him becoming immaculately clear, best in the world, he wouldn't benefit many people. Someone who has a humble servant to the world, and for whose sake then he's observing this discipline, not because he enjoys them, he actually hates them. He should get really bored. For his own sake, he might as well not do, But he do for the sake of benefiting others, then they will benefit a lot. Amazing, Got a lot of people like that. Oh, why would I bother? I don't like it. And it's just like that. One who does it with a good intent, this is of course Bodhisattva's way of life. Intent with which one observes and adopts discipline is more important than what one adopts and don't adopt. So there are lots of people who adopt extreme forms of asceticism for the wrong reasons. To please the god, they might burn cows or slaughter animals or strew the blood on the statues, thinking that is their devotion, So the outer form of behavior, you can't tell what is right or wrong. To some it's a virtue, to others it's a torture. But people are wrong view. They don't even know how wrong that it is. They don't, let alone benevolent. They're harming somebody else, try to benefit who? Illusory. So that's why the wisdom is so important, isn't it, to know all of the above. Giving and discipline. And so they say giving. So just let's be brief with those two. And giving is a way to give away one's wealth, starting with giving away with one's possessions. Starting with this, because this is always, people always got something in their possession that they are not doing much useful with. And so if they get away with that, it straight away becomes useful. So it's a very beginner's training to give something. And the discipline is to help others, not to better oneself, come out better, best among others, but so that one is useful servant to help others to change or to modify. Patience is to have forsake anger. Patience isn't not just to prove that we withstood that hardship for the time, but to forsake anger. If we did if we went through and we tolerate that 20-hour work or whatever, but that's not patience. That could be just passive aggression. One is doing it there unwillingly, and that. But real patience is absence of anger, forsaking anger about anything. And this is a Nagarjuna word. Patience is to have force to forsake anger. Effort is enthusiasm for virtues. So the right effort is that enthusiasm into virtues. It's not enthusiasm in non-virtues. There's a lot of people who have so much enthusiasm in non-virtues, totally waste of time from other people's point of view. It's even harmful to themselves, to their body, to their energy, to their money, or to their... But still they have so much enthusiasm, so much diligence, so much commitment. But here, in bodhisattvic right effort is enthusiasm to virtues. Virtues basically is benefiting sentient beings temporarily and ultimately by skillfully putting one's time online, giving it to others. So one's right effort is to promote good in others that benefits somebody. Not just to say, I do this every day, am I not good type of thing, but actually there's no benefit to others. So people do a lot of good things, a lot of strong things with discipline, but discipline with the right effort for the benefit of others, and then it's a right effort, beneficial to others. Lots of efforts gone to destroy the world. Lots of effort and discipline and diligence goes on doing many harmful, destructive things. They are not called diligence. So in this case, it's not the kind of right effort. It's a wrong effort. It's a wasteful of effort. Concentration is unafflicted one-pointedness. So this is now defining what those 6 paramitas are. So the unafflicted one-pointedness, this is very, very good, isn't it? Because there's a lot of one-pointedness, but they are afflicted to defeat others and take them by surprise. And you do one-pointedly at an hour and time when they all sleep. That kind of one-pointedness is also one-pointedness, concentration, but afflicted. So unafflicted one-pointedness. Even mindfulness people talk about these days. If the mindfulness driven to succeed, to become productive, to become, win more, earn more, that kind of mindfulness is afflicted mindfulness. These days, there's a lot of that kind of leadership or success, and that how quickly you become successful. Those are afflicted mindfulness. It's not the mindfulness lacking. There's excessive afflicted mindfulness. And so the mindfulness that is related with this concentration meditation, it has to be unafflicted, particularly gross affliction as well as clinging to oneself. Concentration is unafflicted of one-pointedness. Wisdom is ascertainment of the meaning of the truths. So the 6th paramita, which is the wisdom that ascertain, meaning it establishes through reasoning and logical rationale what is the meaning of the two truths, relative truth and ultimate truth. And the relative truth is the kind of truth that is that individuals will say what is right and what is wrong, but on the basis of that, one needs to adhere to whatever is to the beneficial to the majority and the norms of society. But nevertheless, ultimate truth is that even though it says you should give, for instance, on a relative level, you should give, you give. But most people give to get, so to speak. But here, the ultimate meaning of giving is even what we are is also already gift of others. We are not ourselves, even let alone the things we have. Definitely, the things we have came from others. So we are not really the giver at all. We're just the postie, like the postman, and we're just delivering. So being the postman never says, "I give you that letter, I give you that post in a parcel to you." He just delivers, So the wisdom is that you, even if you did give things, even you did practice tolerance, you always think that I'm just small part into that. So that wisdom doesn't make the giver exhausted by the giving or tolerance. See, that's the wisdom. Amazing. It just so completely saves us a lot of trouble. It's not a lack of giving. It's a lack of giving with wisdom. It's not a lack of one-pointedness. It's the one-pointedness that is mistaken and afflicted. So being able to discern that is the wisdom. Wisdom ascertainment of meaning of the true truths. Compassion is a mind having the one savor of mercy for all sentient beings. So compassion is unconditional compassion, and mercy has a sense of amazing empathy and able to feel the sorrow and the cause of sorrow of everyone as they were us. So compassion, of course, one has to start with every finite sentient beings and slowly extend that. It says for all sentient beings, not just choosing some and not choosing others. One could be very compassionate to this lot, but hate this group of sentient beings. Then it becomes bias. So bias is not compassion. So mostly for all sentient beings, even if one group of sentient beings that we are trying to protect are very violent or whatever, still we have to have compassion to those violent people as well, because they're actually creating more suffering than the sufferers now. And so when we have compassion, we will see that. We wouldn't see the temporal suffering of this and the other one as a non-sufferer. They're deluded. They actually will suffer much longer. If already not suffering, they will suffer much longer and deeper by inflicting that suffering to others. That's why in the Mahayana Bodhisattva's compassion has to be to all sentient beings. Sure, of course, we don't want to intervene sufferings of beings we cannot intervene. So on the surface, maybe we can intervene. Particular certain sufferings is much easier to intervene, and certain suffering we can't intervene. But even those we cannot intervene now doesn't mean they are not object of compassion. They still are even more deeper object of compassion. But if we can keep from the one eye seeing that aspect of the pitifulness of the we can call them perpetrators. We can call them perpetrators because they are directly causing suffering to some other creatures or sentient beings. So, usually we are only taking sides. So our compassion is with anger, So the compassion with anger, fierce compassion is often possible. If one doesn't have wisdom, one ends up taking sides. And so it's not compassion for all sentient beings. Compassion for certain sentient beings. How do we know our compassion is one-sided? We're actually hating the other group of sentient beings who we see them as a direct cause of torture and suffering to them. Even though we might have some kind of annoyance by them, but Bodhisattva like Avalokitesha, who has a compassion to all beings, actually shows and sees the suffering of those people are actually more deeper than those who are made to suffer physically, because they are much more ignorant. At least those who are suffering to be whatever, they're only suffering temporarily, but after that they have create no heavy karma. Maybe it's exhausting their karma, so to speak. But those who do not know that and ignorantly perpetrate these things, they become much more, I would say, more important object of compassion. So that doesn't mean we shouldn't intervene his or her activities that cause whatever we can intervene. Yeah, we act locally, they call it. We definitely need to act locally. But we shouldn't still think globally. These particular sentient beings who are doing this are the very bigger cause of our compassion. If we don't have that, then it becomes cause of our own rage, our own anger, it doesn't forsake our anger at all. See, it's a tolerant was to forsake our anger. One moment we are compassionate, another moment we haven't forsaken anger to the other. So this kind of well-rounded compassion is difficult unless we have adequate merit. So that's why accumulation merit is very important. Otherwise, even our well and truly meant compassion end up become cause of more anger. Whether that's or not, we can feel, we can tell. We're doing a lot of compassionate deeds, but our anger is more taking up us. And if we have good wisdom discerning emptiness, we might be enraged for a while and to save or to help a while, but we actually see that also as illusion. Then we have no enrage, no deep anger towards the others. Then, of course, we have done both well, isn't it? We have done the act locally, whatever we can reduce the immediate suffering, but at the same time, we have not built up this kind of anger towards those. Then it says compassion is mercy for all sentient beings. Because we don't have the ability to have mercy to all sentient beings, therefore we have to be careful that our compassion to some doesn't justify anger to others. If we do that, then we lack wisdom. Obviously, we lack the wisdom. It doesn't mean we lack compassion, but we definitely lack the wisdom. Because having the wisdom with the compassion, then we are able to. Our compassion is not depletable. Our compassion is not depleted. Compassion is actually compassion which is not directed to finite sentient being. Compassion which is directed to infinite sentient beings shouldn't be act like a depletable compassion. Depletable compassion is definitely compassion directed to sentient being. There is no second or third level compassion whatsoever. And so that's why even the compassion that Bodhisattva practices must be accompanied with unafflicted one-pointedness, which is the concentration, and with the other four paramitas, together with the wisdom discerning that. Then one will see the efficacy of practicing paramita softens our heart, our compassion, because it says that discipline of, if you do the discipline of restraining harm, doing good, and benevolent to them. If we have restrained some harm to this, prevent some harm to this, and do some good towards that, in the meantime, there is no benevolent benefit, and then it will take a very heavy toll on ourselves. Then in the end, we really feel like giving up, on all sentient beings, So then that will show that we definitely lack the wisdom which is the wisdom. He says wisdom is ascertainment of meaning and purpose and understanding of our purpose, what we're doing. Are we understanding what we're doing? Are we getting somewhere what we're doing? Or is it taking us bad to worse, so to speak? And it is not surprising. It can sometimes do that, and it shouldn't be always plain sailing. It's sometimes it's very, very sharp bend and corner, and only learning through mistakes. Then the Bodhisattva develop ascertainment. He can't know the truth just like that as something out of like that. So he goes, and from giving there arises wealth. Now he's talking about effect of generosity. From giving there arises wealth. This is talking about in next life or later on, or say the wealth that you have now, wealth that we have in this country as a collective wealth, or the abundance of at least everybody has a very more than necessary things. This kind of opulence, this kind of luxury that we have are results of our generosity in the past. So we are not newcomer to generosity. We are already practitioner of generosity who have merited all these things. So therefore we shouldn't think how to invent generosity. Generosity is already effective generosity has blessed this life and all the good things. From discipline, happiness. He says, so if you have happiness, it's not because you have wealth or you have power or you have position, because you practice discipline in the past. Discipline in the past life, maybe earlier in their life or even a few years ago, and then it will give some kind of merit for us to have happiness without craving for it. Some people are naturally looks very happy. They don't have to go around the world to become happy, or they don't have to get that to become happy. They're naturally quite contented. It's because they have practiced discipline in the past, and they're very focused too, and therefore they're happy what they're doing. And the people who are not disciplined, and they're doing this one day, there's another day, no, there's no discipline. So therefore doesn't know how to make up mind to be doing what. And so it's very much like a loss. So people who do something consistently, regularly, that is discipline. Our little effort to come here on once a weekly basis is a form of discipline, It's a form of discipline. At least we honor the Dharma, and then giving the time and energy to pay attention and try to understand life and its mystery through the teachings of the Dharma. And that's amazing kind of discipline, really. And if you have some openings through the Dharma, it's because we're disciplined to listen and read, and then think, and then try to interpret life through the prism of Dharma. And then we have happiness. Even we lost something, it doesn't really make us, it doesn't beat us. It wakes us up. It wakes us. And it wakes up, we're happy. Otherwise, it puts us to sleep. Even winning would put us to sleep. Even winning would put us to sleep. So therefore, if one is seeking with the wrong motivation, of course, then and it's what you call afflicted discipline. Afflicted discipline. There's lots of people doing many things every Tuesday, every Wednesday. So it doesn't mean people don't give time, and doesn't mean people are not disciplined. But the intention with which we do has to be motivated altruistically. Then you will have a lasting happiness through the disciplines, however small though it may seem. However, small, we shouldn't be judgmental to the smallness of discipline. Small drops of water fill the jug. Big splash might even break the jug. So small drops that we do, and actually we're really happy. All of a sudden there's some opening and realization happening. From patience, a good appearance. Good body that we enjoy. From the very beauty of the body is a result of practicing patience in the past life, and unfortunately, others are born with a lot of deformities, huge deformities, and having all the limbs and sense intact, with the exception of those that becomes age as a result of age, to be blessed with a good appearance is a result of the, parents same mother and same father give birth to 6 children, but 2 are born with a lot of deformity, and 6 are not. It's nothing to do with the mother's womb, nothing to do with the parental genetics. It's the karma of the individuals are such. If they haven't practiced patience in the past, we're born with all the very good physics, And so we shouldn't just see them as something, but see them as an effect of past patience. So we are not new to practice patience. We already are blessed with patience. From effort, brilliance, virtue. Some people are brilliant in doing some good things. And whatever things that you are diligent, that you have a might of effort to do, in no big ums and ahs, you do it and help it in an enormous way. These are because we have practiced right effort in the past. So we have natural willingness, natural gift to do things that actually bring delight in others. There's a diligence is joyful effort. It brings joy in others. Some people do, but it doesn't bring any joy to others. They wish you never asked them to do that. So, therefore, the effect of past diligence gives us this energy that we are doing. We're doing like a goal, like every day or every week or willingly and happily. Not something that wears away, Of course, everything is wearable, everything is impermanent. But at the same time, everything is developable. The developable also impermanent, wearability is also impermanent. So, sure, sometimes we shouldn't say, I should do more and more. They have to a time that maybe we have to change direction, doing certain things that we cannot do anymore. We have to be honest. It's saying no is perfectly fine if the intention is genuine. So one doesn't have to push until sort of exhaustion and then give up desperation. So the right effort, all the willingness and energy that we do things, it doesn't mean that everybody knows what great you did. It might be just simply attending to some which nobody thinks is important. But if our right effort and good heart is there, it is brilliant. It has its own joyful effort no one can sing praises of. See, the Bodhisattva need to perform anonymously. That is delightful. Not that everybody knows that then you get a lot of applause and then therefore you want to keep doing it. It's quite dangerous. That's even more dangerous. You may fall in the pitfall of attachment to such worldly dharma of gain or respect is even more dangerous. So one's diligence to gain for worldly gains is not diligence. It would not benefit in the long run. It becomes cause of discord very soon. But those one performs anonymously, but not having to be contested or checked by the world, but one, in the Lojong says, be the better of the two witnesses. We ourselves are the good witness. We're sincere and we know from our heart. When we know that, then even if people completely misunderstands you, completely says opposite, instead of praising, disparaging you, instead of saying good things and bad-mouthing you, still it doesn't impede your goodness. Your delight is not losable. And that is really what it means by armored bodhicitta. If one has this brilliance will stay. From concentration, peace. Person who has practiced concentration meditation, even though in the meditation it's a struggle, your leg goes numb, you can't feel sleepy or whatever. But deep down, the product is, it makes the person very peaceful, very quiet, not really raged with problems. He just learn to hide his pride or not terribly express his grievances. He just learned to make peace. He's really always peaceful. He doesn't add to the problem. They say he practiced the Dharma, not the drama, because he's through his past meditation is able to practice peace. Some are like that, isn't it? Amazingly peaceful. Even there's a huge problem. It's just as if it doesn't really happen to him, or not that it hasn't, but he just knows that there's very little he can do that will better by making noise. And his past tolerance with his sitting, with the cold, with the hot or whatever, has almost like acculturated a very peaceful mentality, and a very gentle, very non-reactive. Not that he doesn't notice things that are unpleasant, that is difficult, but just he knows the futility of adding to the problem. Like he sat there, his legs pained, but he knows it's better to sit because legs are no use after a while anyway, so he might as well use it now. So later on, with all the good legs are buried in the can't take the two good legs in the next life. So he had to endure the hardships in meditation, and so he has this karma. Mentality is very peaceful, naturally very peaceful. Definitely these things are not genetic. These things are definitely merit in the past mental mind stream. That some people get really agitated quickly. Others just learn to just, it's just like let the water sit there and not stir it up. And if you let the water sit there, and even the muddy ones, slowly the mud settle down, the majority of the water is clean on the surface, and so on. Like that, the person who meditates and who has meditated in the past has a natural, I would say, kind of predisposition. He's predisposed to resort to peace rather than violence or aggression. And people want peace, but they don't know how to predispose to peace. They don't know how to give chance and peace a chance because they haven't been predisposed. But one who meditates regularly, even though it's very early or very late or very hard but because he does it, it just has slowly sort of trained his mind, tamed his mind to have that kind of a nature. Amazing, you know. From concentration, peace. From wisdom, liberation. One who has learned and heard and meditated on emptiness, he's quite easy to be liberated from problems. There are problems, but he doesn't get stuck in these problems so long. Of course he has. It's just like he can do the puzzle very quickly. It's the same puzzle, but he can do it very quickly by tearing the board, I suppose. If you tear the board, then you don't have to make the puzzle. But still you can put the puzzle, but for the sake of those who need a puzzle. But for you, it's not so important. So you don't get caught in the duality. You have heard and listened. That's why Heart Sutra is read very, very, not just ritually, but we should really read it as a meditation. Just reading it, bless your soul, bless your ears, bless your mind, bless your eyes, and definitely, and that's why it says those who heard this once, are fortunate. They say. Those who doubted about this, it's even more, And they say, if just doubting about the teachings can shatter the samsara, liberates you, Those who are frightened about it, those who don't want to go and not listen, not think about it, of course they can't be receptive to the benefit of that. Because from wisdom, liberation. Wisdom of listening first, putting up with the teachings and listening to it again and again, and then actually contemplating on that, the wisdom, contemplating on how big an importance that the Mayan literature gives to wisdom discerning emptiness, and getting to see the vision and the kind of I would say the legacy of it, the whole project of it. It's amazing. It is the kind of giving everybody the power to free from suffering, the true cessation of suffering, truth of cessation. You can follow all the truth of path, but most path does not get you very far to gain the cessation. They get become cultural or pseudo or form dharma, become form dharma. It's the wisdom within that form, whether ritual or chanting or reading, but wisdom that actually sees the amazing vision of the dharma, why Buddha sat and caused the conversation to occur between Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara. This amazing kind of a project that he launched, and the legacy of that, and then having heard and having awed by the teaching, it empowers you to free from suffering. It knows suffering holds you at ransom very long. He says wisdom gives liberation. Buddha doesn't give liberation. Wisdom gives liberation. That's why it calls mother of all the Buddhas. Even we can be born as a Buddha if this mother is if this mother fall pregnant to this wisdom. We have to conceive this in our mind as intellectual property. You have to really hold this as a valuable asset, and then give some space when we, not just to know and learn and read about, but give that space again about that problem. Bring this space. Put those problems in this space. How much a problem it is when you have the wisdom discerning emptiness. Then, so and from compassion, all aims are achieved. I mean, if you practice compassion, you will be able to solve problems because you know how to practice compassion for sentient beings who are suffering and who are not aware, causing the suffering. If you have compassion to them, then all aims will be achieved. Will be achieved, and I mean things will successfully relieve the problems, and the quality remedies will be achieved, because so these are the summation of the what we call the Bodhisattva's conduct of training in the 6 parameters. In a 6 parameter, what has been said here is a little brief, but here Nagarjuna was writing only to a king, who have not a lot of time. Not a lot of time. So he lists the 51 negative emotions, and then he put all these 6 parameters in these 7 verses. 7 verses. And then the general effect of this from simultaneous perfection, meaning that when you are able to intersect, meaning each of the 6 perfection together with the wisdom and compassion, when you are meaning if you intersect it, meaning then they are simultaneous perfection. They are not one first and another later. Of course, we learn intellectually what is generosity, what is thing, but when you actually learn to do them, they're all 6 in 1 or 7 in 1, but here compassion has been added on top of the 6. So simultaneous perfection of all these 7 is attained. You will be able to employ them and intermingle them. What do we mean by? For instance, if you practice this generosity, say study of Dharma, to yourself, giving yourself to study Dharma. This is generosity, and then you do that with good discipline, whether it's just the concept or meaning or understanding of it, and then so that you actually know what is this understanding got me to do, drop what habit, adopt what non-existing habit, and make myself my doing of it beneficial to others. Even if we get good at adopting these and dropping these, but if they don't have benefit to others, it's not. So therefore, one is actually using one's time and effort that one gives generously with a good discipline that has a benevolent effect on others, and then the time and effect, the energy that we have to tolerate, the hardships, the energy, the dedication of time and energy, and so on for the cause. This kind of enduring, never minding, not complaining these things, but doing them, bearing them difficulties with the higher purposes, and delightfully, not doing with a gloomy face, doing regularly, but doing the gloomy face. Then there's no delight there. Then others just wish they don't have to work with you. They're just this person's so cranky. They just don't like to work at all. So even though you do a few things, but makes it very, very corrosive. So try to generate some kind of delight and joyfulness to, not readily like that, quickly patch up, and then we all know that, he get really cranky, but quickly he doesn't hold it, he just straight away. He's very good, isn't it? So practitioners shouldn't be like a non-human. It should be like a real human, but being able to come out a little bit benefited by the Dharma. Quickly recover his conscience, quickly have the humility, and just as joyful to humbly beg a pardon, as much as joyful to upset you. They don't need much joy to upset you. It's pretty automatic. Pretty automatic. Because the past habits are pretty strong. The present remedy must be pretty quick coming, They say, hit while the iron is hot. They go. So our bodhisattva must therefore intersect like all these things, and then we become very, very focused, He's very, very focused, not afflicted, very, very unafflicted focus. And then he sees the wisdom, even if one made a mistake, or even he made a mistake, but actually his making a mistake is really good because you can forgive him. Otherwise you can never forgive him. Nobody made any mistake in front of us, we don't know how to forgive. So even our forgiving ability is not interdependent. It's not truly existing from its own side. It depends on the mistakes of others, and so on. So we do not see anything that is truly existing. So therefore, when you do this, the sphere of inconceivable wisdom, you will develop conceivable wisdom, the protectiveship of the world. The real protector is this wisdom, this primordial wisdom that actually one sees. So if one practices all of these 7 practices, 6 paramitas on top of that compassion, and they say, just as 8 worldly grounds of hearers are described in the hearer's vehicle, so that means one will gain those. The people who practice a hearer's vehicle, meaning Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddha, Theravadan practitioner, they actually gain the 8 bhumis. They have this, according to Theravada, there's 8 bhumis. The 8 bhumis, according to their way of thinking, they call it a stream enterer, a stream abider. Once return enterer, once return abider, and then enterer and non-returner, and so on, and then arhatship. So in this way, there are 8 such stages that hearers can achieve through the hearer's vehicle. So likewise, on the Mahayana, the 10 grounds of bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas gain 10 bhumis. So now it is highlighting not just the temporal effect of the 6 paramitas, temporarily, of course, life after life, until you gain the bhumis, you will have those reasonable qualities we were talking about. So you actually gain better and better, and finally you actually achieve the 10 bhumis. And it says the 10 grounds of bodhisattvas are described in the grey vehicle. So it goes to list what the 10 grounds are and what the qualities that they come with. The first of these is called very joyful. The first bhumi is called joyful one, a very joyful one. Of course, the first bhumi is part of seeing, of course, but in Mahayana they call it joyful one, because the bodhisattvas are even without, before reaching that, there's a lot of reason to rejoice. So because the bodhisattva is always rejoicing from having forsaken the 3 entwinements. 3 entwinements really means the afflictions, yeah? All the 3 entrapment, all the afflictions are very much like intertwined with each other. When one has the attachment to the world and attachment to self, attachment to views, these are kind of 3. So attachment to the world is desire. Attachment to self is clinging to self, and attachment to view is a wrong view. So when one has forsaken these and having born in the lineage of the ones gone thus, which means sugatas, when one has reached the first bhumi, then what do you call that? Through the maturation of those good qualities, then the perfection of giving becomes supreme. Then the first paramita is complete. The generous paramita, dana paramita, actually come into fruition when you reach the first bhumi. So therefore, it doesn't mean that our practice of generosity, however best we may give, they are not actual dana paramita self. They are cumulative practices of dana. They're just like the seed. They're just like the various drops of water that fill the jug, but it will take a while until it completely fills. Suppose when you see the jar filling, you'll be happier, as you say, oh, it's now nearly half full, When it's completely full, of course, you reach the first bhumi. So that's why it was joyful. So here it talks about what is the quality of this is they vibrate 100 world. If the bodhisattva who reached the first bhumi chooses, he can change, and vibrate means he can transform the world for 100 world simultaneously, because he can emanate his body 100-fold simultaneously in 100 different places and do different things to delight, to inspire the world, like Shakyamuni Buddha coming to the world, they become great lord of Jambudvipa, exactly, like the many great luminaries of the Buddha Dharma after the Buddha. A lot of them are reputed to have reached bhumi abiders, we call Satopki Chanchu Sempa, bodhisattva who have attained bhumis, Some attend these bhumis consecutively, day after day, like Virupa did for 6 days, all the 6 bhumis, one day after another. So anyway, the one who reached the first bhumi has the power, if he's choosing, to vibrate. I'm pretty sure the influence of the personality of His Holiness Dalai Lama would be this, Basically, the energy and name and identity and his legacy and his goodness definitely is vibrating the world, if you like. On a spiritual level, it's very few is comparable in this time and age. It's possible there are half a dozen or more, We are not saying there's only one. We don't want to be that miserable, miserly, But each of them are able to vibrate particular part of the world, through our aspiration, through our prayer. If we don't have prayer, we don't have karma. Even if we are right next to someone like His Holiness, we would never be vibrated by them. We would never be affected by them. But when you are, when you have the receptivity, they don't just shake the whole world. They're able to actually change the world and its people in an amazing way, in a non-threatening way. Amazing, making everybody feel listened to, everybody feel heeded to. So that's the first bhumi. The second bhumi is called stainless. Trimamepa and Vimala. The second bhumi is called stainless because all 10 virtuous actions of body, speech, mind are stainless. So this shows that the perfection of morality is only achieved when you reach the second bhumi. Prior to that, you will have certain aspects of the habits or behaviors, somewhat contained or restrained. Others are still adopting. Some people's behaviors of the body, speech, mind. Mind is hardest. Mind is hardest to train. Speech is the second. Body is hardest because body is exposed to the desire realm and dependent on the on the sense objects and so on. So when one who has completely immaculately achieved the perfection of paramita, Shila paramita, is one who has accomplished practicing all the 10 virtues actions, such as the first 3 virtues actions of the body is never killing any sentient being, either directly or indirectly, and so will completely rather himself die than cause or directly or indirectly cause any death. So that kind of not only in outer form, but not only just form, but also verbally also. Never hurt anybody's feelings, because hurting doesn't mean just physically hurting, So one is completely abstain the non-virtuous actions of body, such as killing, harming body, and then non-virtuous actions of the body. Second body is to do with the greed, taking things from people. So even legally, it's punishable, but so in this case, not just taking material, but also not coveting, even mentally not coveting, even mentally also not wanting, and that kind of completely immaculate in terms of, because it's called stainless for no reason. It's not called stainless for no small reason. It's totally having no desire for things, that is other lives or other lives or property, or what do you call sexually. So one who has no desire, one who has no sexual desire whatsoever, who's completely overcome it, not just a choice of sexual preference. There's no sexual desire whatsoever. They're completely beyond that kind of a mind. So, let alone doing harmful things with it. So the one who doesn't have anything at all. So all the practice of abstention that one previously did now completely liberate one's mind from desiring any, and then verbally also abstaining the 4 non-virtuous speeches or use of the speech. So therefore, one is completely virtuous speech, always telling what is relatively, ultimately true, never opposite of the truth. And never using spiteful, scornful, harsh, abrasive, and condescending, and idle, or gossip, and so on, and never using really foul and meaningless and divisive chatter. So totally engage in the virtuous speech, always speaking what is really good for the ears and mind for everyone, that points to the truth of the Dharma, and everyone feels benefited by listening to the virtuous speech. So that's because it's adhering to the teachings. So that's virtuous speech of telling what is true. Virtuous speech of telling what brings harmony and courtesy and respect. And in promoting harmony and respect between all parties, never against one, and so on. So therefore, virtuous speech itself is very mediatory, very able to help people to drop their differences and promote their goodness, and so harmony. And then virtuous speech of using kind, soft, they call TLC, tender, loving, care, and compassionate speech that actually is able to soothe the hearers and the listeners, and therefore make peace through speech, makes free through what's one right to each other. Even all those war of words between the international things, they're saying bad words and then they have a war already. If the one starts saying very nice things, the other one also tone down. It's amazing. You can see the one says really nice things and the other one also not saying so much bad things. So if a person who is practicing reaching the second bhumi has succeeded using immaculate speech. They call it the words of the Buddha are right speech. And right speech is just listening to it and quoting it and remembering it is so blessed to the ears. And so therefore, wholesome speech of promoting kind words, gentle words, caring words, soothing words, and never engaging in meaningless conversations, but meaningful conversation that has great wisdom and opening and knowledge to draw from all concerned, and therefore also one also reads that are really meaningful. So one who has a habit to extend his energy to such a mode of communication, such contents of communication, such manner of such purpose of communication, then it becomes for what you call virtuous deeds of the speech. For virtuous deeds of the speech. So these 3 physical and 4 verbal what you call virtuous deeds of this body and speech are largely social. It's interpersonally helps amazingly. Amazingly. If there is happiness, it's because someone or maybe few of the people are practicing these things. They are speaking respectfully towards each other, about each other, not just in front of them, and in the back you think otherwise, not like that. Then there will be a lot of genuine friendship and real lasting friendship that you don't become friends and then not lose it again, not like that, because of individuals and those who we are sharing time and space actually are engaging in such wholesome physical and verbal speech, because it's a very socially effective, beneficial. Then the 3 virtuous deeds or thoughts of the mind are contentment. First is contentment. If one has a virtuous thoughts of contentment, there is no greed and there's no complaints. No complaints about people or things one doesn't have or one has, or not that person doesn't have certain problem, but he just doesn't have any, just have this contented mind to not complain. So exact opposite of covetousness. A person who has no contentment always speaks discontentedly and trail of discontentment. So one who practices Dharma, right ethics, this is right ethics, there should be individual ability to mind one's own desirous, greedy thoughts. So then very little discontentment. One who has no discontentment, one who has no discontentment, there's a lot of contentment. One who has a lot of contentment, then he is naturally free from the second negative thoughts, which is ill will. Always goodwill towards others. Even if someone does something completely, outrageous thing, still one just try to send good thoughts, think good thoughts towards the person, instead of reacting or overreacting to it, as if our bad mouthing would better them or something. No, one actually has the amazing good nature to mind his thoughts and then send goodwill. May he be well and may he be free. May this expression of his, exhaust his karma by my and others not reacting and overreacting to him. So with this goodwill, goodwill, exactly opposite of ill will. There's no ill will there, because the absence of ill will is goodwill, and then no wrong view. One has the right view. Well, always very easy to understand law of karma, very easy to appreciate teaching of interdependence, and most importantly, illusoriness of things. Even things terribly, conventionally, very upside down, but you actually see the emptiness of it. See, amazing, the virtuous conduct of mind that have no wrong views. If you have residue wrong view, straight away we get into who's right, who's wrong, and then we take side for one another, get caught up in the drama. But one who has a right view, even though he sees exactly on the conventional world, that's like that, but it's already a drama in its fullest scale already. Doesn't need to pour kerosene on that. so he meditated on compassion and wisdom, discerning emptiness. And not that he's negligent of what he still can do whatever relatively possible doing, so he's not turning a blind eye to it. But he doesn't get broiled into this just mutually destructive behavior. So these are the perfection of self-discipline. Is one who's able to naturally abide in those 10 virtuous conduct, and the one who has successfully done that, has the second bhumi. Second bhumi called stainless. Trima mepa. Trima means stain. Mepa means no stain. So stainless or immaculate. Vimala in Sanskrit called Vimala. So it's really very much succinctly talks about the how a person gains second bhumi. People who have touch of the second bhumi have these qualities: amazingly peaceful, and very patient, and very little reaction. Because his mind is abiding in these three wholesome thoughts of contentment. Contentment, of course, is not negligence of wrong or half suffering there, but he knows he can never fix it. So he knows the limit of what he can do or don't. So he rather practice remote compassion than near disturbance. Remote compassion is better than near reaction, as we can do something straight. Often we don't do much. We wish we never get involved that far. But the yogi who has a touch of this has the humility to practice contentment, have renunciation trying to do those things. And he can do something, of course, that's not an excuse. Bodhisattvas always will do. He said if he can vibrate 100 world, he should at least vibrate the near. He can already vibrate 100 world. Of course he will try to vibrate this area. It's not the lack of vibration. Maybe contentment is the vibrator. It actually changes the situation. Yeah. Someone never add anything. Maybe that is what we need. Because so the person who lives all the 10 virtuous action actually is already enjoying the second bhumi. So therefore, it's important not to overrate our little efforts in the world. As someone does this perfect, other doesn't. It's good to see everybody's inconsistencies, where he or she is struggling, how far it is to get to the second bhumi. It's the second bhumi where a person is immaculately able to observe all the 10 virtuous conduct. Even though some people can observe all the first 3 conducts of body or 4 conducts of speech, but mentally, who knows where they are? Who knows where they are? Their arrogance maybe they're contemptuous again, maybe they're judgmental. So even though they themselves are upstanding, a few of those quite immaculately, but mentally just completely judgmental, angry, resentful, and that's why they don't have contentment. Those who have contentment is not because they are perfect, they're contentment. They're also tolerant with those people whose disturbance he doesn't get involved. So that's why it is important, humbling for us to hear great beings saying, "Oh, they're still struggling on the path of preparation," they call it. Like His Holiness Dalai Lama says, "I think I'm just struggling on the path of preparation." He never says he's on the path of seeing. It's just first bhumi, let alone second bhumi, So, and might be said for a reason. Might be said for a reason, because everybody expects expect him of amazing, or expect others of amazing, and then they realize they're just completely exaggerating their own expectation of anyone, and hence they could not tolerate anybody who has stains, who has imperfections, most are perfectly imperfect, and that's what samsara is so full of it. Otherwise samsara will get lighter and lighter, and so with this way, as you can see, Nagarjuna is. These are some of the very, very seminal writings of Nagarjuna on the 6 paramitas and 10 bhumis. And what people do, like Sakya Pandita and Gampopa and Tsongkhapa, when they wrote those voluminous texts, they actually use this route, and then they elaborate them and use various other Mahayana texts and classify them and how many types and stages and so on. So this was a very early text, 2nd century text, and people memorize these things, and then slowly, and they actually quote. When you see the Lamrim Chema or the Jewel Ornamental Liberation or Sages Intent, they actually quote these kind of root texts from where those very long, I would say, chapter on each of these paramitas are drawn from. So we will conclude here. So page 11, and with the dedication merit. By the merit of this, may I attain the state of omniscience and defeat the evil enemies of defilements. May I liberate all sentient beings from the samsara oceans, eternal waves of birth, order, sickness, and death. By listening to the excellent, precious Mahayana teachings, whatever boundless merit I have acquired, may all sentient beings become precious and stainless vessels to retain the excellent, precious Mahayana teachings. May the supreme and precious bodhicitta take birth who had not done so. Where it has been born, may it increase abundantly without degeneration.